Many assume that racial tension between whites and blacks only exploded in the Deep South, and that New York was far away from riots and cruelty. The North was very much a site of the mistreatment of blacks in poor neighborhoods and cities because it was ubiquitous. The riots that took place in the North were in contrast to Southern protests, extremely violent and uncontrollable. Northern blacks found that nonviolence was nice to talk about. The madness in Bed-Stuy in the New York area started during the unbearably hot summer of July 1964. 15-year-old James Powell was shot to death by off-duty policeman Thomas Gilligan in New York City. According to the police, Powell threatened him with a knife and ignored a warning to stop. But the blacks said there was no knife and the killing was unjustified. The blacks wanted Gilligan to get suspended and for an independent review board to manage the charges against the brutal police. But instead the situation was left up in the air and the police were defended. In retaliation for this injustice, CORE held a protest rally in Harlem by marching to the police station and demanding the suspension of Gilligan, while also protesting police brutality. Police fired their revolvers, which is where the riots and extreme violence began. The anger rapidly spread to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and mobs filled with hundreds of people threw bottles and bricks. Disorder continued with looting, as well as gangs breaking into white-owned stores and shattering windows. Blacks were shot by police and received criticism. This movement was not church-based like the nonviolent protests in the South. Instead, CORE and black nationalists heavily influenced the blacks. The problem was not within a legal sense, but they had no freedom in the sense of humanity. To stop the madness, the National Guard was called into Bed-Stuy, as was the mayor. As the violence calmed down in Bed-Stuy, riots immediately spread to Rochester, as proof of the fact that social unrest in New York was only beginning. President Johnson had just put the Civil Rights Act of 1964 into place, but that only dramatically affected the Southern blacks. Therefore, the fight for power is very different between the North and South, and the riots in Bed-Stuy can more likely be compared to the Attica prison riots. The riots in Attica took place when a correctional officer shot black activist George Jackson. The Attica prisoners seized control of the prison and were rebelling against unfair treatment from the prison control, similar to the blacks in Bed-Stuy who were rebelling against violent police. Another similarity was the hoodlum element to both the blacks in Bed-Stuy and the prisoners in Attica. After more incidents of race in New York and the killing of Black Michael Griffith after he was chased by an Italian-American mob in Howard Beach, Brooklyn, filmmaker Spike Lee decided to expose the harsh truth of Bed-Stuy in his film Do the Right Thing.